So Rodrigo, did you like going here? Do you think it was interesting?
Tokyo.
Yeah. Like, did you learn a lot? Did you develop as an artist?
Yeah, I mean, I often find that I learn, or I feel like I learn more when I'm outside the school than when I'm in the school. But I think the school will give you is the ground for you to start sucking information and knowledge afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's necessary. It has to happen. I think. But I'm also a social animal. So when I decided to come here, the decision was, part of the decision was based on the fact that there were so many different departments kind of like merged together. And so in my mind it was like, okay, I'm going to meet people from theater, from dance, from, and my master was like 5 people, including myself.
Yeah.
Like on the backside of the canteen. So I felt like super isolated, kind of like a shy space. And there wasn't a lot of like exchange really. I was very disappointed about that.
Yeah. What department did you go to?
To MAPS, to art and public space.
Yeah.
It's the space for MAPS is behind the canteen,
Yeah.
the little space.
Yeah.
The little
behind
space
the
there.
toilets there.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's like in the back in the corner.
Yeah.
And I was the only foreigner in my group. We were 5. And now I think everyone is, or almost all of them are international artists.
Goodness, Norwegian.
Good.
Back on track? Ready, steady, go? Yeah, tack. Okay, we're back. Had to say that. It's like cut. So let's pick up. I don't remember if it. I think you said it, Victoria, that when you came here, you couldn't really decipher which ones of the students were from the arts and crafts department and who were from the public space department or art in public space department, and which is interesting, I think, because when you first hear those 2 terms and definitions, I guess most of us would initially or immediately expect it to be 2 quite different modes of expressions. And even us working within the professional art field, having been exposed to, I don't know, like 1 billion different modes of expressions, we still do have some sort of expectations when we want to see, or when we're expecting to see arts and crafts, and when we expect to see art in public space. So picking up from there, forgot my question, but what sort of connected them, or why do you think that there wasn't any difference? Or
I felt that the works felt very complementary to each other, and that it was more coherent, and that basically all of the artists are working with both ideas and material.
Yeah. Andre, being the arts and crafts, previously.
I think what's interesting is from the ceramics department, for instance, everybody's working monumentally. So, where are you going to put these works? Of course, it's because of the school and I have these big kilns, but the people come here and they make large sculptures that, where will they fit? Of course, you can show them in a gallery, but nobody's going to buy them for your home. I could go to a museum, of course, but some of them are just, they're kind of aching for an open space in a way. So, so I think maybe that's because I felt a little bit like you said, but also I just wanted to make a little comment on public space, because of course a gallery is also a public space. So when we think of public space, we think mostly of a space outside the institution, out in the open. But of course, in this exhibition, public space is also the internet. For at least for one of the artists, that's a big part of the public space that she works in. So I think that's interesting that we immediately think that an artwork in a gallery is not a work in public space in a way. But of course, I do it too. But it's interesting because it's really, in a way, it's a place for the public to come to see art.
I just wrote down while you were speaking, does definitions really matter? And this is, of course, a recurrent question within the visual arts and within contemporary arts. And does it matter if something is arts and crafts or visual arts or sound art or art in public space or whatever? But then again, we're still here in this graduation show where there is some sort of boundary and there is some sort of definition. And I would argue that the gallery and the White Cube is not necessarily a public space in a way, but we're not going to go.
You would argue that it's not?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
maybe.
it's
Well, I
confined
think
and-
when you think of public space, maybe you think of a space that is not, because when you have a gallery, you expect the people to come to a gallery to be looking for art, you know. But
Yeah.
if you go into a public space, you don't have that controlled environment that you have in a gallery. You don't have a system that tells you that this is art. So you have to maybe find out for yourself whether it's art or not. Maybe there's no way to know sometimes.
Maybe we don't need to know. Do you want to add to this, Rodrigo?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in that respect, the work of Ana Brotas is quite interesting because it kind of like self-defined as a sort of like side responsive network. It kind of like taps into not even public space, but public sphere, and it provides a certain attempt to give you a kind of grammar, a kind of lexicon to actually think these times, which I haven't found so present in the rest of the works. So I think in that of the shaping of a network of language and people and gestures and sort of like hijacking the title of the exhibition, Ninja was something that made me think a lot about how we have been, how do we need to kind of like, I don't know, if sophisticate our ways of communication, our ways, and you know, like just the glitch we had, and you know, the soundless critical talk we had for a few minutes. It's just part of these times, and we just need to pursue other mechanisms and other systems of communication.
And to adapt.
Yeah. I think that was a meaningful gesture for me, at least.
Yeah.
And it talks about what you were saying as well a little bit. I think how we need all these labels, all these different tags that we put into the work in order to place it within certain field. But here I feel what you were saying as well, Victoria, that you know the lines, the limits are a little bit more blurry, and it's hard to notice what's arts and craft and what's public space and what's a public art project. I think
it's defining public space is a completely different discussion. So, but I mean, it's of course relevant to tap into here when it's an exhibition who's actually showing artists who are supposed to make art for public space, and it's linked in all of them. But I wanna we should try to narrow it down to the actual artworks, and I would like to after seeing the exhibition and experiencing the works, I would like to ask all of you, since this is after all a critics talk, although two of you are artists and are you still a critic?
Not so much practicing right now.
Yeah, but today you are all critics. And what projects stood out for you? And I mean, when you leave the premises, what are you left with? And what sort of made an impression?
I think generally it's a lot of interesting works, and I liked a lot of works. I don't know with you guys, but it was a lot of works that in different ways made an impression on me. So I think that they're ready to go into the real world and become artists now.
Yeah, I find myself often very drawn towards artists that are thinking in a completely different way from me, and
Yeah.
to feel like, oh, here is a full set of a way of thinking. And this I got from several artists, and I especially enjoyed the double presentation, and know you did as well, from Katri Paunu and Karina Sletten. And where the Paunu's works are the fountains and the sculptures from ceramics and yeast, and you have the running water and some not fog, but not smoke, but not fog.
Yeah.
Steam.
Steam.
I was thinking. And then you have the video work of Sletten, which works with the city and the ruins. And then I found that those two worked well together, because maybe Paunu's work was also some ruins, and then you could also hear the waterfall from outside, so you had the connection with the city.
Yeah.
So I like that work a lot. And also the work from Pierre Ying Shu Shi, which we can see here.
Yeah.
A relational metal work consisting of small creatures doing things, stretching, sleeping, and more undefined activities. And for me, it explored like how to relate to each other and to objects. And I found myself wanting to see all of those small creatures.
You really want to get close and study and see if you can connect almost in a way and try to decipher their movements.
And I was almost sad that I could not see the ones on the top, but I guess you can't meet every person in the world, so you just have to see the ones you can see.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, I think for my part, well, there are several artworks that caught my attention, but in particular, the work of Alejandra Aguilar, The Black Box, just made me forget for a few minutes that I've been, the COVID was wrong. I think it was a generous, a lot of special elements, a lot of miniature houses with this theatrical lighting and this soundtrack that just made me wanted to stay there for a long time.
Yeah.
And it kind of like made me feel, I don't know, sort of like it was sort of like a futuristic black box in the sense that she filled the space with a whole different universe. And so it didn't feel, maybe it's one of the works that provides the most, one of them, while at the same time it feels not necessarily so interconnected with the rest of the exhibition in terms of, because it's so sort of like it's on its own inside the black box, and it doesn't communicate so much with the rest. On a spatial terms, just that.
I was very undecided with that work. I like the theatricality of it, and I like that it's kind of a complete work in its own universe, and as you say, secluded in a way from the rest of the exhibition. But I don't know, it was something about how it's made that I didn't really get into it, or I was kind of looking for an entrance in a way. I don't know why, but it's in a way it had all the ingredients that should make great work, but still it was something that didn't connect with me. I don't know why. It's interesting. But I was thinking of one of the works that I really enjoyed and was in, and which I felt that really also worked well in that space, and it was in what's called Katedralen, the ceramics pieces by One Østeia Maldonite, or Maldonite, I don't know.
The hanging ones, and they were laying on the floor and
especially
climbing.
one of the pieces that was hanging from the wall, large piece, in a sort of a belt or this orange thing. I felt that it really were in the right place in a way, and it was like this corridor you go through, and it was all out of kinds of elements, architectural elements that were talking with it. So it maybe I wouldn't like it in the gallery in the same way, but where it was situated, I felt it really was a strong piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really had made a good use of the space. I felt like it was transformed from a corridor to a gallery, and there were also some pieces that were hidden. So you walked towards the ones you saw, and when you turned around, there was one on top also. And they looked a little bit helpless. So they were leaning on things, and they had to get some help to be held up. And the one on the bridge was like struggling a bit to just stay upright.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think, I mean, for that particular artwork, there's so much potential in this tension that she generates by using these stripes and the high ceiling. It's a very high ceiling.
Yeah.
But I think some of the pieces were struggling. I think some of the pieces were not fitting from that tension, and in doing that, they sort of like support themselves in a vulnerable, perhaps, way that kind of like generated this contrast with the rest of the pieces that were more like floating in the air or being suffering this tension with the stripes. So I don't know if that was deliberate. We probably will never know, but it just kept me thinking about that. Why not to sort of like,
Yeah, but it's interesting, and of course we don't know how these spaces are chosen for the works.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that some works may have worked much better outside a white cube, and some of the works that we see here maybe works much better within a white cube. And of course, I guess the curator have had some ideas about this and have some talks with the students where they want to be and how they perceive the work. But as you said, with the down in the basement, Katrinesletten or Katripanne, really work well together. They work well in that space where you can see the brick wall behind, and the floor is kind of very heavy. Well, I guess it's maybe the same floor as here, but because you're in the basement, the light is very different, and it really makes a good space for those works, and they work well together. I'm sure the curator has been thinking about this, but it's in a way it's somehow accidental where it feels a little bit accidental for the viewer, I guess, what works are in what locations, because this is the school we have to, the premises we have to use, and here is a space that's, can contain some work. Here is a space, you have to go into that dialogue, and I think it's interesting. For some work that's really worked well, and for some works it may have not worked so well. So
I guess it's ups and downs with both showing in the strict traditional conventional white cube, which is supposed to be neutral, and also going out on the other side, going out into the public space. And I'm actually sitting here thinking right now, just before this talk, when we went to see that project in the garden, and I can't remember the name, which Colleen? I hadn't found.
Colleen, I think. I think her name is Colleen.
Colleen, yes. Yeah. Because I was a bit hesitant and a bit, frustrated, having thought I've seen the whole exhibition on Saturday, and coming back here now only to discover that I actually missed a piece because it's so difficult to find. But now it seems it's in the right place, and I'm also thinking it's in a way, and this is the question I'm coming up with just now, it's in a way, perhaps is it bridging this whole idea of public space, art in public space, and the materiality in the way it's made and the way it's presented in this secluded place that you have to discover, but it's still out there in public space? That's not a real, Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, you also had some opinions of that work when we went down to see it, and
I mean, there is a performance aspect of it that we haven't been able to experience, of course, and that probably adds a whole different, kind of like brings a bunch of elements into the public space that we haven't been able to experience, of course. But I felt, in a way, there was something that was not bridging between the work outdoors and the work indoors in Seilduken. Perhaps this dance element, this performance, is what connects both spaces. But the fact that it was so neglected, and I don't know if that is a direct response to this negotiation that students have to do about space, or is something that it was decided together with the curator, the artist and the curator. But there was a gap there that I haven't seen. That I think it's exactly. It becomes like a gap. It becomes like a blank space. It's like, how do you connect these two? It's the same artist with similar language, with similar visuals. However, you don't manage to connect those both spaces. It just becomes almost like two versions of the same piece. That's how I read it. But I would love to see the performance and see what it does to the space as well.
Victoria.
My impression was not so much that it was neglected. Being out there, I saw it more as the artist she had collected the materials outside, and then she built the sculpture and put them again outside, and then the nature was also contributing to the piece. When I was sitting there earlier, there were some seeds coming from the trees, and those were like laying down on top of the sculptures, and there were already seeds within the ceramics. So I thought of it as more of a question back to nature, like, okay, this is what I can do as an artist with my material, and then what can you do then? So more deliberate than neglected.
Andre?
It's of course interesting that this was an artist that is not at Art in Public Space, but on Arts and Crafts. But I was thinking of something, and going a little bit back to this space and this and how this exhibition is presented. I don't know if the school has an imagined public for this exhibition. Who are they expecting to come to see it? Because I think that would define a little bit how you work with it. Because I mean, you could go outside the school. I'm sure that also the master students of Arts and Crafts and Public Space could choose a location outside the school. That's possible, or you would know, I guess, because you haven't graduated. What is the options? But since other parts of the academy, and also I think the BA students in Arts and Crafts, or was that the academy as well? That was St. Olavs gate.
I think it was academy, right?
That was academy. Okay, I just wasn't sure, but I mean, it's possible to choose location outside of school, and it's possible to choose an art location if there's somebody who wants to show it, of course, or a non-art organization, or a space. I mean, so spaces outside school. So that makes me think that if you want to keep it in the school, then you maybe have some idea of who are coming to the school to see it, and maybe you expect them to already know the school and would find these spaces that we found a bit hard to find, maybe, because they would know the school already in a way. So it would be interesting to know that, what maybe you have some knowledge about that process, or something you can share about. Not for this particular class, but for in general, how that works for the school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can share some insight from back in the days, I guess. And I mean, this has been a long discussion, right? Like whether Arts and Crafts should develop the exhibition, should make the exhibition here in these premises. and then you have art and public space, a little bit like being loosened up in the space, and then trying to find our own spaces and our own ways of like mediating our own work. So I guess the support of the curator was important. Responsibility of mediating your own project, rely yourself and the collective as well, your fellow students. So I think that it is. I'm surprised that when there's this impossibility to access the premises at a school, like you have very limited time to enter the workshops because you need to wear a mask, and you need to use anti-bag all the time, and whatever restrictions they come up with, that even the artists in arts and craft have not dared to kind of like become more adventurous to the surroundings of the building and to place the work inside, which I mean is valid, of course, and is part of activating the space for what you consider it will do the most benefit to your own work. But I wonder if that could have been a possible consequence, possible reaction to the impossibility to access the physical premises at Kio, as well.
I'm also thinking right now that maybe this idea whether something is neglected or not also has to do with how you define all the different spaces in particular. I mean, is it, this project in the garden, is it neglected or is it in a secluded, more secretive space? And if that's intentional, that maybe that's a good thing. And also experiencing this whole exhibition in total, there's this fine balance between the I don't know, this notion that you're sort of going like treasure hunting and following this map, and you're curious about what you're going to find and what will be around the corner. Will it be something there? Or if it's just frustrating not to be able to, again, to be afraid that you actually missed out on something. And I'm not sure if it's like one definite answer to that. And maybe it's also, it depends, as you say, Andre, who are the ones coming to see this exhibition? Because as people working in the art world, we are sort of used to deciphering, okay, that's an artwork, that trolley there is not, but that thing on the other trolley is probably an artwork. Maybe it has a label. But for people coming from the outside, it might not be so easy to decipher these things. And then how do they experience this? That was just a reflection on my part.
I mean, I wonder if it was deliberate, right? Because the title is Drifting Matters.
Yeah.
And they in the text statement use aimless movement. So I wonder if that was deliberate as well. The fact that you kind of like have to find your way and find your own way of navigating the space, which at times could work. I think at times it did work.
Yeah.
For me at least. Not in the whole exhibition, but at times I did feel I'm drifting. I'm roaming around, and it feels good.
Yeah. Do you have any particular examples when you sort of felt you were drifting? Are they connected to any of the artworks, or is it just?
I haven't connected particularly to an artwork. No. At least not yet. I'm trying to process that in my mind right now. No, not really. No.
Victoria, do you have something you want to add?
Can you maybe say the question again?
Yeah, I was just asking Rodrigo because he said he had this sense of at some points he actually got the feeling that he was drifting, and that it worked in a way, going almost treasure hunting and roaming the corridors in a way. And I was just curious to know if that experience was connected to any of the actual projects and artworks, or if it was just, the space in itself being a massive building with a lot of corridors. And if you've never been here before, you can easily get lost. And then you would probably feel like drifting matter.
Yeah, when I felt myself drifting, I asked for help and I got back on track again.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think we covered what we wanted to cover. Do you have any final words to add in the end? Any last words?
Go
Famous
first.
last one. I think I was just thinking what you said about the map and the treasure hunting. Maybe for me it had kind of an interesting consequence in a way that I feel that, well, this is a great exhibition space we're sitting in now. I think the
Yeah.
exhibition works very well as an exhibition. But in a way, I remember better the works that I had to look
Yeah.
for in a
Yeah.
way. So it activated me in some sort that you had to follow this map. And even though I've been here several times, so I feel that I know most of the spaces where the works were today, except for the one, of course, that we had to discover in the end. But still, I felt that it was kind of, I had to
Yeah.
follow the map, and
Yeah.
it made me a little more, attentive. Is that a word?
Attentive, yeah. That's a good point, actually. Any last words, Victoria?
I was very struck by how productive these artists have been during these strange times, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's due to all the constraints and everything. It's very impressive what they deliver here.
Absolutely, I totally agree. It's massive high five.
Yeah, for some of them, like the ceramicists, you can't even see that they've been away from school.
No.
I think something that we didn't talk so much is about landscape.
Yeah.
And I think you also mentioned imaginaries, and some of the topics really felt like a recipe to cope with these times.
Yeah.
And, social housing, the cultural deficit we're experiencing, this willingness to create a new language for us to be interconnected still.
Yeah.
So I think in that respect, the exhibition worked very well by providing, it's very generous to provide different concepts and topics. And in that sense, it's very varied. It's so diverse.
Yeah.
And
It should be.
And it's complementary of each other. So I think it worked very well in that sense. Yeah.
I think that that's a good ending. It's a good final word. So we're gonna stop there. Thank you for sharing your reflections on this exhibition. And thank you all of, I'm not sure which camera to look into. Thank all of you over there. And that's it.
And thank you to the artists.
Yeah. Yes, there will be a recording of this that will be published later. If you follow Visp, I think they're gonna publish the link. So it's gonna be out there if you wanna see it again. Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Vel blåst.